Hi,
Good evening,
everyone.
everybody. Good evening, everybody. So excited to have you here for our Friends in Fiction official book club discussion with Emily Henry and the book lovers.
Yay.
I'm Brenda Gardner, and with me is my lovely co-host, Lisa.
Hi, everyone.
And of course, the person you're here to hear a lot from tonight, Emily Henry.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. Like I was telling you before we got started, I've heard so many great things about this group and how lively and fun it is. And I'm just really happy to be talking to everyone.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we hope we live up to expectations. We do
They're
have a
fun
lot of great
group.
members who are going to blow up the chat. So
That's so
we're
fun.
really excited. But I will kick things off because I want to give you, Emily, a proper introduction for our group members. So Emily is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read, as well as several young adult novels. She studied creative writing at Hope College and the New York Center for Art and Media Study. She lives and writes in Cincinnati and the part of Kentucky just beneath it, which I did not want to forget.
Very important.
Books have been featured in BuzzFeed, Oprah Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, the New York Times, The Skim, Shondaland, and more. Now, our selection today, Book Lovers, was chosen by Indie Next as a #1 pick that booksellers recommend. So we're really honored to have you here today, Emily, and looking forward to hearing about the book. So to kick things off, I just want to remind our members, we are going to accept questions in the chat. And as you may call, we're spoiler free until about 7:20 or whenever Lisa tells us.
Closer to
7:15.
lots
of time to get into the details of this fabulous read. But before we launch into the discussion, I'd like to ask Emily, could you give us a summary for those who may not have read the book and they're just tuning in for the spoiler-free portion?
Yeah, definitely. So Book Lovers is my third rom-com. Yeah, there you go. And I feel like it is the most rom-commiest book that I've done yet. Like it's really just playing with all of my favorite tropes and all my favorite kind of archetypal characters and all of that. So the basic gist of it is there is this ambitious, like high-powered literary agent named Nora Stevens who lives in New York City, and she loves her life. And she's kind of got everything all down pat, except for, of course, her love life, which keeps ending up in flames in the exact same way, which is that she'll meet someone, she'll kind of suss them out and figure out if they're a good match. They'll get together, and then he'll get sent away for some kind of business trip and then dump her and upend his life to move to whatever small town he's been sent to. So it's kind of a riff on like a lot of Hallmark movies that we've all seen and loved, and a lot of just like kind of small town romantic comedy novels, which again, I'm a huge fan of, but I did notice that this storyline kept cropping up where this career woman is kind of just there as like a background character, a foil to like the real love interest who gets introduced later. So Nora keeps getting dumped over and over again in this very highly specific way. And her younger sister, Libby, convinces her that she needs to have her own transformative small town love story like her ex-boyfriends keep having. And she's like, you know, we just need to get away, go to a different place with a different group of people. And Nora goes along with it because she loves Libby and wants to spend time with her. And there's been, you know, some kind of discord in their relationship. So they go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina. And while she's there trying to kind of like loosen up and, you know, embrace this small town transformation that her sister really wants her to give a shot, she keeps running into her nemesis from back in the city, Charlie Lastra, who is this brooding, kind of uptight editor who Nora has bad history with, and she does not like him, even though they're very similar. And so they just kind of keep bumping into each other as Nora's trying to like not be thinking about what's going on back in her life in the city. And the rest goes from there.
Well, that sounds great. And I have to tell you, as I began the book, I was thinking, oh, this is so, you know, so Hallmark movie. And of course, you address that in the, you know, in the notes at the end that you're a big Hallmark movie lover. So that's kind of cool.
I am.
And I also wanted to mention, I noticed this in a review from NPR, and I thought it was a good way to say it. She says Book Lovers by Emily Henry is both a tribute to and a takedown of small town romance. And I just had the funniest feeling when I was reading it, because she's from the get-go. She's like, all, I don't like that, all small town. It's like holding a mirror to that genre and then putting, having a mirror inside the mirror, because you're kind of like back and forth with that struggle. How was that to write?
It was so fun. And the thing is, like, because I knew I was starting with that whole thing, that whole, story that you recognized from the get-go. Like, I was starting with that story and with that character and thinking, okay, what would her story be if she then gets this spin-off? What would it be, and how would it look different from her ex's? And so from the very beginning, I knew I was kind of teasing this thing that I do really genuinely love, but I wanted to kind of, like, look at what's funny about it and what doesn't totally add up or make sense. And the thing specifically, I think with that storyline, it's like, maybe one high-powered career person leaves the big city and they meet a baker and they realize that's actually where they want to be and who they want to be with. Maybe that happens. But if you see that movie over and over and over again, you read that book over and over and over again, you start to think, like, wait, what are we saying about like people who live in the city? Or like, what are we saying about people who wear high heels? Or like, like Nora just kind of riffs on all of the things that you kind of recognize as a shorthand in a movie, especially, but in books as well, as like, this person might be like a villain, or like, we're supposed to know they're shallow or they're vain or whatever. And you're like, okay, she only eats salad. She's not fun and laid back. And she doesn't drink beer. So like, she's not fun to be around. And all of those things are just like cheap little tricks to kind of like streamline a character and be like, now we don't have to explain it to you. She's not right for him. And again, like when you see that story once, you're like, yeah, okay, sometimes this happens. But when something becomes a trope because you're seeing it over and over again, that's when I get really interested and like kind of fixate and want to write something about it. And so that's, I think, kind of how I approach all of my books. But with this one especially, it was like, yeah, I love that story. I've seen that story 1,000 ways and I'll see it 1,000 more and I will eat it up every time. But again, I just didn't want to kind of pick at it and tease it out a little bit and kind of make light of it, but hopefully do so in a loving way where I'm not saying that story is wrong, that character arc is wrong. I'm just saying sometimes that's not the person's story. Sometimes they don't like need to get really into wearing flannel and like swinging hammers by the end of the book so that they're like good and wholesome and happy.
I love the flannel, I gotta tell you. I'm trying to remember, Lisa, we both like Hallmark movies too. And I don't know, we were being crazy one time we were together and we decided to play Hallmark movie bingo.
Fun.
So many of your clues are just right.
Pulled straight.
I was like, oh, we need to pull these straight out of the book and use it for a Hallmark movie bingo card for sure.
That is so
fun. We're so on point.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we were wondering, excuse me, sometimes video is delayed. We were wondering too, since the small town is such a central, plot element, essential plot element. Carrie Soderman asked in advance, what is your favorite small town?
Ooh, oh my gosh, that is such a good one. Wow, I've never been asked that, and I always get really excited when I get a new question. I mean, so I live in Cincinnati, but I live in a neighborhood of Cincinnati that has its own distinct personality that I think is just so like delightfully quirky and strange, and I love it. So that's, I love where I live, but also, I loved the little town where I went to college, Holland, Michigan. It's like so wonderful and cute, but also like kind of weird. And Saugatuck. All of the Michigan lakeside towns are like high on my list. There is a town in Oregon. Oh my gosh, what is this place called? In California, there is this. If somebody in the chat like knows what I'm talking about, they should shout it out so you all can tell me. So okay. I've only been there once, but it's in this valley. It's like this windy town. I think the town is called Boonville, possibly. And there's like some wineries there, and it's like you get super, super car sick just getting there, and it feels like this old Western town. But the weird thing about it is there is this language that is specific to Boonville called Boontling. And I don't know, like, I think when I was last there, they were like, yeah, the language is dying out because it was like an old thing that they used. Maybe it was like a mining town or something. And so they had all this weird lingo and things got abbreviated. And that town was just like so cool and so weird. And it's like, how have I not heard of this? I lived in the United States my entire life, and I've never heard of this little like valley in the mountains in California where there's a full new language that is not English.
Oh. Wow. Okay, guys, you have an assignment. Check it out and let us know in the chat if you can confirm if it's Boonville, California.
Yeah.
That is so funny. Well, related to that, someone else asked, and I hope I may not have the person's name, but what did you base the bookstore on, a real bookstore, or is it more the Hallmark amalgamation?
Yes, I would say it's very much the amalgamation. And yeah, there are definitely specifically, like, I think that I did end up writing a scene. You know, it's kind of funny because you go through so many drafts. You're like, did this even make it into the book? But I'm pretty sure it made it into the book, that there's like a kind of cleaning montage, because that's something that has happened in multiple Hallmark movie like bookstore locations where they're like, it's a mess, and the new person comes to town and they like clean it up, and that's always just so fun. So yeah, I mean, I just because I knew I was really dealing with everything that makes a book lover, I just wanted to create like a funky little bookstore that felt like any bookstore you could just find in some random town on a vacation, and you know, like, can tell that there's just so much love and history there. And it was just sort of an ode to indies in general.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we do love our indies for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So we do have an answer in the chat from Barbara. She says, yes, Boonville. It's in Mendocino County, and it's Boonville.
Boonville. We need to.
Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. I wonder if Barbara's been there or just did some Googling while this was happening, but either way.
Yeah, let us know if you've been there.
Yeah. Let us know if you speak.
All right, they come through again. Lisa, did you have a question for Emily?
I sure do. We have so many questions about this. Like, our members are just so excited about your dialogue, the quick wit. But the specific question I'm going to ask from Natalie, she says, you're so gifted at crafting witty dialogue between your characters. Do you draw your characters' conversational flow from your real life personality? Like, were you just a pro at witty, flirty banter in your own real life relationships?
Oh my
and
gosh.
Where is the Emily Henry in your famous lead characters?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I feel like I was raised by like Nora Ephron movies and like Gilmore Girls. And so that is my entire identity. It's like pretty weak and flimsy, actually. So I don't know. I think the thing that I love about writing romance is writing that dialogue, and what it really represents to me is like, when you meet someone who has the same sense of humor as you, it's not like I walk around and I'm funny all the time. A lot of times I'm having a conversation and in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm being so boring and I simply cannot stop. Like, I'm fully aware, and I'm just like, and so do you file your taxes quarterly? And like, that's as good as I can do. But it's so magical when you meet someone who you just like have similar enough references or just similar enough senses of humor that you feel so smart and funny, because they are just setting you up and they're saying the exact right thing for you to make a joke that then they make a joke off of. And it's like the most magical feeling in the world. And it's pretty rare to make a friend where you're like, wow, we're just so in sync that we can do this. And it's this game that we're playing. And so in writing love stories and writing friendships, I do this a lot too. I think it really is just, it's not like I'm pulling from actual conversations I'm having, but it's just that feeling of being so like in your pocket. Like, this person is just the perfect like opponent to do this with, to spar with, or teammate to kind of just like bat these things back and forth. And I am terrible at like giving advice about how to write that when people ask, because I think it really just came from watching too much TV. And that's like, everybody's already doing that. Maybe you have to do it when you're like a little bit too young to be watching it. And you're like, what does that joke mean? Maybe that's how it happens.
Well, Charlie and Nora back and forth, that was just, it was perfect. Just so,
Oh, thank you.
we had so many questions about that and so many comments about they just love it. Like they would just laugh out loud on every page.
That's so great.
Our members
And-
are such a fan.
And if you get a chance, we even had a string today of all the quotes that people just love from the book. And I have to share this one funny thing with you. We have a book club member, Bubba, who I'm going to read you her post and then I'll show you. She said, OMG, this book, I may not get through it by Monday's book club meeting because I keep ROFLMAO. I need to go shopping for some Kleenex and Depends. That should do it. Wipe my tears and protection for when I'm laughing so hard I pee a little. And then there's a whole selection of emojis.
Oh my gosh.
But I wanted to share with you the post, the picture that she posted that was her
Oh my
quotations.
gosh. That is magical. Oh my gosh. It's like one per page. I love that. And you know what's great is probably at least 2 of those pages are pages where one of the characters is like, I'm peeing myself from laughing.
Yeah.
So trust me, I've been there too. We all have.
Shout out to Depends.
Yeah, shout out to peeing yourself while laughing. The real hero here.
Well, and not to keep dwelling on it, but the other thing that was so cool was not only did Nora and Charlie have that quick banter, but Libby and Nora had it too, and they had such a bond, and it was a different kind of banter, but it was just awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun writing sisters because I feel like sisters, so I have sisters-in-law, but I don't have any sisters. I have friends I've known since I was 10, and I have close friends who are older sisters who I was pulling from a lot to write the Nora Libby dynamic, what I've seen with them and their younger sisters. But I feel like that relationship, what's so fascinating to me about it is that it's like just incredibly intense. Like there's just like this mutual obsession and love and devotion, but also they can be so mean to each other. And then 5 minutes later, they can be laughing so hard that they're peeing themselves. And I just think that's such a special dynamic. And so it was really fun to write Libby and Nora because I feel like Libby she can like kind of pick and like play kind of rough with Nora because there's just this absolute safety net where they both, know that ultimately they're not going to do anything that breaks the relationship. Like it's just too strong.
That's clear in the book too. It's one of the really my favorite parts of the book is the relationship with the sisters. But we had some questions about that too, and about the character names. And you hinted at something earlier that I'm wondering about. But I will ask you first. Teresa Chin wants to know: was the sister Libby named as a nod to the library book loaning app?
No, but I want to pretend now that it was. No.
That's your new story.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh. Well, like Libby, like she really was like, I think that the name Libby just came to me and then I was like, oh, Libby is usually short for Elizabeth. And I had, because her character's name is Elizabeth Baby. That's what it is. I'm trying to remember. So I'm trying to remember the evolution of everyone's names. So Nora is Nora Catherine after Nora Ephron and Catherine Hepburn. And then Libby is Elizabeth, which I think that I'm trying to remember, I think that was because of a Catherine Hepburn movie where the character is named Elizabeth, but I don't remember. That wasn't written into the book. But no, I wish I had thought to be shouting out Libby. And maybe that's why the Libby sales have been so good. It's just sheer confusion.
Maybe so. And you answered, we were going to ask about Nora too, because we were kind of thinking it might be Nora Ephron. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, from the beginning, it was just sort of, so much of this book was an homage to her. So that's how she got that name.
Love it.
That is awesome.
Well, I want to point out that it's 7:22. So we are going to dive into some spoilers. If I don't know if the next question Brenda has is a spoiler, but we want to go ahead and give the warning in case the answer contains a spoiler. Sometimes they do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know whether I could ask this question or not because it's just too kind of crazy. It is not really a spoiler though.
Come
But
on,
we
girl.
have to ask you, Emily, based on the conversations between Nora and Charlie in the beginning, will you be turning in a Bigfoot erotica novella?
I've had so many requests for that, and I do kind
Oh,
of,
shucks.
yeah, I imagine sending that to my editor and just like the absolute heart attack that would give her. Like, I have a book that's due very soon, and I just imagined now sending her Bigfoot erotica instead as a fun surprise.
Oh my gosh, that is just so funny. Can we get some of our, if you're watching, let's get some of your Bigfoot erotica title suggestions for Emily in the chat.
No.
Please.
Yes, the punnier the
Okay,
better.
off
Yeah.
script.
Yeah.
Oh, well, while we're waiting for the Bigfoot erotica titles, which I never thought I would be saying, first of
Yeah.
all,
Who
It's kept
knew?
light. Yeah.
what and this isn't really a spoiler either, but we'll be getting to some of those in a minute, especially when our members start putting some more in the chat. But what was the toughest character to write for you?
It was actually Charlie. Like, I was so relieved when the book, the early copies started going out to reviewers and booksellers, and hearing that people liked the book at all, obviously, is always a huge relief. But the thing is, with this book, it was the first one I wrote in quarantine. It was the first post-COVID book that I wrote. And so my life looked very different. I was very bored. I felt very boring. And so the whole time I was writing the book, I really just was like, this isn't funny. This isn't funny. This is so boring. What is going on? And it took a few drafts to figure out the Charlie piece of things, because I knew Nora really clearly, pretty much from the beginning. But to get their dialogue really good, I needed to understand him and how he would be responding to her. And it was like very late in the game that clicked for me for some reason. Like, I think it was because Charlie and Nora are so similar. But I knew that they couldn't have the same backstory. They couldn't have the same reasons that they were that way. And so it just took me a really long time to figure him out. And it was like holding my breath until the last second to see if this book was gonna go. And then it did.
Awesome. We're so glad that it did.
I
Yeah.
know. Because
sorry.
one of the things, are you reading the titles?
I'm laughing because I have some titles for you. Dorothy says, you know what they say about big feet.
Wow.
Edie says sexy Sasquatch and her snow lovers.
Wow.
And then Meredith says Bigfoot, big heart. There's a sequel to that I won't mention here.
It's all really
Thank
do
you, Lisa.
Bigfoot erotica, hot and hairy. That's what Claire says.
Hot and hairy. That's like an anthology title. It's like a lot of different Bigfoot, Yeti, etc. That's what
Yeah.
I'm
We've got a couple coming through. So thank you guys for the giggle.
that is a true gift.
I'm guessing you haven't been had suggestions for the Bigfoot titles in any other interview.
No, that is a first time. That is very much a first time, and I'll treasure it. They say you never forget your first, and this is burned into my brain forever. I am really delighted. Hot and hairy is like, I really feel like that probably already is an anthology of Bigfoot erotica. We'll have to check Libby tonight.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to
It's
hold
my
it together,
fault.
but
I took it. I took it
you
off.
did.
I took it off. I'm sorry, but we had to.
So you're
do
just
it.
gonna have to take over because I'm.
Okay, I have another advanced question, not about Bigfoot. Nancy she says she loved how you inserted other authors' names randomly throughout the book, like Patricia Highsmith, for example. How did you choose which authors to use? And then she says, P.S. I Googled almost everyone and made a list of the books for my TBR. I loved this book.
That is so awesome. Wow, I really love that. I mean, there were a couple different ways that I was choosing which books I was inserting. The first is just like kind of, big books that people have been talking about. Because this was a book for book lovers, I thought like that'll be kind of fun to feel like you've seen that one. Like everybody knows, oh, A Man Called Ove was huge, and A Little Life was huge. Like it was just everywhere. So there were some that I was just sort of like, these are kind of the big names. And like the same goes for like inserting some of the classics, just feeling like it's fun to be reminded that, people, like readers, all have their own genres that they're, really devoted to. But also I think there's a lot of common ground, because when you grow up, when you figure out you're a reader, you're just kind of taking everything in until you figure out what it is you actually love. So a lot of it was, just being like things that I love and that I think like a lot of people have read, but also some of it is really specific to the characters. Like I definitely, most of the references are coming from Nora and from her point of view. And so it was things that I thought, oh, Nora would love this writer, or love this book, or like Libby, Libby's a huge romance reader. And so I think there was like a Bridgerton reference, and I forget who else. There was a Vari McFarlane reference, who writes women's fiction, that is just some of my favorite writing. And it's so, so, so funny, but it also is like kind of gutting sometimes. Like there's a lot of emotional heft to it. And so I knew that was something that Nora and Libby would kind of overlap on. And with Charlie, I knew he was like a little bit more serious, but still kind of skewed towards genre. So like he reads a ton of Octavia Butler, who's like so like literary and celebrated, but also really just like strong genre fiction. So it really was just like a lot of it is character informed, which was really fun, because it was a nice way to figure out more about the characters, asking what they read.
I loved it.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're Googling it. Like, that's awesome, because a lot of those people are, I inserted writers who I think also are like underhyped. And so some of it was just me kind of trying to hand sell books, I'll be honest. I'll cop to that.
I do have another advanced question. Rebecca wants to know if the cat in Frigid is a tribute to Breakfast at Tiffany's.
It somewhat is. I will say yeah. And another famous book, like everything is kind of like referential in the entire book. Like the entire book is sort of just like stuffed with things I loved, which I think also has made the next one harder, because I'm like, well, I put every single thing I liked in the last book. But I liked the idea too, because I'm doing that. I liked the idea of Dusty having this story that has some similarities to this huge classic, but the ending is not the same. It looks from the outside very similar, but it's not actually the same ending, because the ending of Dusty's book is about letting people in and like deciding to let people in, versus Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is much more like, no, I don't want human connection. I don't want you to come close and see me for who I am. So it was, like I said, everything in the book is like referencing something, like just extreme meta-ness.
Extreme meta-ness.
Yes, there's probably a real noun that means meta-ness, but I don't know what it is. Not that
we'll take it.
Yeah, meta-ness.
One thing that I loved about this book with Nora and Libby is I love their relationship as sisters and how close they were. But I also love that they were both strong women in their own right, and they were different. Nora more so on the business side, where, she kind of takes up that character of a woman who has to tap dance on the line of, if you show your emotions too much, then you're considered weak. Or if you're too strong in your convictions, then you are labeled a shark, like she was, or worse names that I don't want to say.
We'll say difficult and scary.
Yeah, difficult, hard to work with, angry, all of those things. And I loved Nora for that reason. I felt like I could relate to Nora for that. And Libby, on the other hand, she was very strong in who she was, but she had the family. She was a great mom. She she wouldn't read the dust covers. And then Nora skips to the end of the book. So my question is, are you more of a Nora or are you more of a Libby? And if our members watching want to chime in.
Yeah, I want to see what the split is. I think that the beauty of the Nora character, I was really scared that people wouldn't understand her and wouldn't like her. And I felt very protective of her, and I couldn't really figure out why until pretty late into the game. But I think the reason why I felt connected to her and the beauty of her is that, to an extent, I think most women feel a little bit like Nora, even if outwardly they look totally like Libby. I think you spend so much of your childhood and your youth being taught how to be palatable and likable and realize, being taught that that's your strength. Your strength is being able to navigate relationships and being able to, calm situations and being able to just like make life better. And even, in romance, it's like, it's fun to see like the female character bring this new joy to a man's life. But in real life, it's like so often you just feel like, gosh, I'm the worst. Like my house is like, and this doesn't look like Nora on the outside, but it feels the same. It's like my house is a wreck. Like I go to my friends' houses and it's beautiful and they know how to cook dinner. And I'm just like, I DoorDashed like Taco Bell. Like it feels like so often you feel like you're not living up to what you see from the very beginning as this ideal picture of womanhood. You're like, you're supposed to be beautiful without trying. You're supposed to like not care about your makeup, but just look stunning. Like you're supposed to eat like a man, but somehow be impossibly thin. Like all of these things that are just like impossible to juggle. And so I think that is why people have ended up connecting with Nora, even if they're not like, hard-edged career women, just that feeling of like, maybe I'm not soft enough, maybe I'm not sweet enough, maybe I'm not likable enough, maybe I'm fundamentally unlovable. And I think, that can look so different, but it's just so easy to feel like you're not leveling up or you're not matching what a woman is supposed to be. And so I kind of poured all of that into Nora. But Libby was so important too, because I knew that if I just homed in too close on Nora, I didn't want the reverse message of the Hallmark movies we love. Like I didn't want to be like, no, actually being a career woman is better. And like, that's the perfect choice for everyone. And everyone needs to stay in the city and not have kids and love salad. It's like, that's not doing any good either. So I really wanted the two sisters to be like, we're very, very different, and that's fine. And it's not a judgment of each other to be different. It doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. It's okay to just want different things than the people you love. And like those differences are beautiful. So I think outwardly I look much more like a Libby, but I think I feel like I'm a Nora. Like if I really let all of my hard edges out and, I would be not as likable as I am. I mean, I hope I'm likable, but I'm trying, but that's the thing. I'm always trying, and Nora's not. And I love that about her, that she's just sort of like, people don't like me. I don't know. I just have to deal with it.
I love that about her too. And I just wanted to thank you for highlighting a character like that, because sometimes when we do get characters like that, they aren't likable. Like they give them like the villain or something like that. And for me, I'm single. I don't have children. I work. I don't consider myself a businesswoman because I'm like creative, but that's a whole.
But you care about your
spoiler alert.
I care, and it was like I feel like sometimes those characters or those women are misunderstood. They're looked at as sharks, but it's because they care and they want to make sure things are right.
Yeah.
And the checklists, I am 100% a checklist person.
Yes, nothing feels better than finishing that.
Nothing feels better.
That's right. Checking it off. I will say that.
What about you, Brenda? Are you more a Libby or a Nora?
I kind of have a lot of pieces of both. I can relate to the career woman, struggles, but I like to nurture. So I don't know. I think I'm hopelessly somewhere in the middle.
We have a lot of combos in the chat. Quite a few Noras, quite a few Libbys.
That's so great.
But a lot of combos. A lot of people say, one person said, I'm Libby this week and I'll be Nora next week.
That is so, or like who what relationship you're in. It's like, there are people where you get to be the young, carefree one and then there are people where you're like, when I'm with you, I am holding everything together. And it's like, that's just kind of relationships too.
Yeah.
I'm making a mess.
That's a really good That's a really good point. One of the things, and this is a plot point so we've long passed the spoiler time, but I did want to ask you about, because we've talked a lot about Nora and Libby's relationship already. But the thing that struck me as I was reading, and I was so relating, so I guess maybe I am a Nora, because I was so relating to Nora as I'm going along, and how she had to take care of Libby and blah, blah, blah. And then that moment comes along when I go, oh my gosh, Libby was sort of smothered by that caring, and you go, oh, and it's a real relationship. It's just very, it's very vivid.
Well, thank you.
There's not a question in there, I guess.
No, but I mean, thank you. That's great praise. I mean, that's really, I think that's their dynamic. It's like, that's the point that, that's kind of the point of their arc, is getting to the point of, we're not kids anymore, and we have to just trust each other to make our own decisions.
And the other thing that was a surprise in that sort of in that relationship, was I didn't really see Libby's reasoning coming and that she was going to, spoiler alert, move and uproot their little relationship. And so amongst all of the sort of formulaic things that you were riffing on, I did not see that coming. I don't know if Lisa did, but I did not.
No, I didn't see that coming.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard from both camps. There are definitely people who knew. My parents, this is so weird, because they've read all of my books and they know that I'm like the biggest softie as far as like my writing goes. And they were like, oh, we both thought you were about to kill Libby off, and we were really upset. And I was just like, what? It's in my rom-com? You thought I was going to kill off one of the main characters? And I guess they did. So they were, people's expectations were all over the map.
I do have a comment from the chat that I wanted to share. Well, there's so much love in the chat. Amy says she's obsessed with all the Ohio Cincinnati references. She's a Daytonian.
Oh, cool.
And cool. Then Michelle says, when Libby enticed her sister with the checklist, I felt seen. LOL.
It's so real. And like I said, I have a couple of really close friends who are oldest sisters, and and I'm friends with their younger sisters as well. So I've gotten to go on like trips with them and just see that dynamic. And it's there's just nothing else like it. I really don't think, like, the older sister, younger sister understanding, but also just that, like, I'm the one who's keeps everything going, keeps the wheels on the bus.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Well, I think I will take a turn, if that's okay with Lisa.
Sure.
Poor Emily, she's getting questions from both of us and comments from the chat.
I love it.
But I did want to kind of turn the attention a little bit, because Libby has some fun with Nora in putting her on the dating site. And Maria Lou asks if she says she loves the singles website name. How did you come up with the name Marriage of Minds or Mom? Like it was mom approved.
Yes. And I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, it's so weird, because it's like, so much of my writing is just setting myself up for the perfect joke. And so it's like, I don't know really how that happens, but I think that I started with the idea that it would be called Mom, because I knew that there'd be funny jokes in there. And somehow then I was like, well, what would Mom stand for? And then, it was luckily very easy to think of something it would stand for. But yeah, so much of what I choose, I mean, Papa Squat, that just came to me in a fit of frenzy that I can't explain. But immediately I was like, I don't know what this means, but I know that it would be horrifying to find it, and that it will set up a lot of jokes. And so I just wrote it in there and went with it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where these things come from.
And speaking of which, I'm sorry, Lisa, but
say, you definitely don't want to order a salad from Papa Squat's.
No, you do not.
So you salad.
That was inspired by a real salad from a real restaurant that I am not a fan of.
We will not ask you to name that restaurant. So since we mentioned Papa Squat, is the definitive pronunciation of spa, is it spa or spa?
I think it's supposed to be spa, but we'll never know. I mean, that's the joy of that name, is we'll never know. And since then, multiple people have sent me pictures of billboards or fronts of spas that are called spa. So they're
Really?
doing that. Yes, that was not based on a real spa, but they do exist apparently.
Wow. Here, folks.
Oh,
That's so
Lisa, how's
funny.
our chat going? It's
Um,
probably blowing up.
Yes, people are very excited. It's just so much love. Make good choices, but good books is one of the best slogans ever, Holly says.
Thank you.
Oh, that's true.
How did you come up with the name for Good Books? Was it, well, the Good Books is so good.
Yeah, it's really
But
always, I think that was called Good Books right away because again, I was like, this will set me up for some jokes. I mean, really, honestly, so much of it is that, I mean, when I was naming the coffee shop, which ended up being called Mug and Shot, I had this long list and each was just slightly worse than the last. And same for the spa. Like I had a really long list where I was like, I need to figure out which of these is the funniest. And so it was just coming up with puns. Like there was an option for the spa that was Sea Spa Run. And there was one that was Ziggy Spa Dust. It was just like, what do I think will give me the longest, like the most jokes? And Good Books, I think, I don't know. I did not know that was going to end up being the phrase at the end, but I do love that so much and have seen people make merch with that on it now, which is really fun.
I love it. Okay, I have one more advanced question. Sharon would like to know, she says, Dusty writes a book based on her editor agent. Have you ever based any of your characters in your books on someone that you know, or is it a well-guarded secret?
Ooh, there's always so much. I mean, the biggest example in Beach Read, the best friend Shadi is based on one of my two real life best friends, Nusha. And I didn't tell her that before I wrote the book. I knew because I knew her and I knew she would be delighted. Like if somebody did that to me, I might be a little bit horrified, but I was like, she's going to love this. So I didn't tell her until there were advanced copies. And then I sent it to her and she was just like texting me like, I'm screaming. I can't believe I'm in this book because it just is so, like, I didn't have to tell her. It's just so exactly her. So that was very much her. And as in Beach Read as well, the agent in that book, January's agent is named Anya, and her emails, it was like a really similar thing. She was just so much my agent at the time, who has since retired. But the way that she talked to January, the emails that are like, hello, my beautiful unicorn / cash cow, like whatever, just really over the top, really lovey, and just, kind of comforting me in my neuroses. So Anya was so much my editor. Lana, who is now a romance writer as well, and she publishes with the same publisher as me. Her first book, I have the worst memory of all time. I blurbed it. I loved it. It's like a sexy witch book. But her name's Lana Harper. So you can look into those. But yeah, I do pull from, normally for side characters, like it would be really hard for me to make a main character based too closely on someone because they just, I don't know, like getting into their head that deep seems hard with a real person, but side characters often come from real people I know, or as a starting point, at least.
Oh my goodness, that's fun. I imagine there's probably people who thought they were in your book and
Yes.
you really didn't have them in line.
That has also happened. And sometimes I just sort of like let them, I'm just like, yeah,
Sure.
like some little tiny detail that they're like me. And I'm just like, I didn't remember that you even had a Ford F-150 truck or whatever it is.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely you. That was on purpose.
Well, I have a question for you overall. Now, the book has been out for a little while now. And of course, you probably actually wrote it quite a while back. But reflecting on it, if you could change anything about the book, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I mean, I haven't reread it since it's come out. I have, it was like as soon as I turned it in, I had to start on the next one. And so I get to relive like the best things about it when people tell me what they like about it, but I haven't reread it and I might never. And if I do, it might be a few years. And at that point, I'll wish I could rewrite every word. I mean, that's a big reason why I don't reread my books, because I really will be like, oh, that's so like just the minor changes of, writing style over time. It's like, you really wish you could just fully rewrite it. So honestly, I'm just relieved. Like I said, it was a really, really hard book to write. And I'm just thrilled that it ended up being funny to enough people to like, to just make that like time worth it.
Oh, it's just amazing. And I was curious. I know Lisa has a question coming up, but I was curious about if you knew the whole, I'm not sure if you're a plotter or a pantser, but did you have the whole sequence figured out when you started?
No, I did know the basic ending. Like I didn't know what the scene would be, but since this is the spoiler section, I knew from the very beginning that I needed Nora to go back to New York at the end. I knew that it needed to be, a big decision that she's making that isn't the end of that movie that we've already seen. I that was kind of the journey. I wanted to validate the fact that she's allowed to like the things she likes and be the person she is. And she can still grow and change within that, but she doesn't need to just like suddenly be a different person. So I knew that, but beyond that, I really had no idea. And, in general, I am a pantser, so that's not that uncommon. But when I say I had no idea, I just truly had no idea with this one. And it's just hugely different from how it started out and so much better than how it started. So much of my writing process is just rewriting over and over again until it feels like, yes, that's right.
Gotcha. We had a couple of members that wanted to know if you would consider writing a sequel or releasing Frigid as a book.
Ooh. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe someday Frigid will be something. I think it would be tricky because it would need to be, different enough. Like I have some ideas of that, but it would need to be really different from Nora's story. And in a way, it's like kind of paralleling her emotional arc, which is really how I build my books, is from the emotional arc, not like the literal plot. The plot happens to like take them through these emotions. So I would be open to it. As far as a sequel, I do get asked this a lot. And my answer is always basically that if I have an idea that I'm just like, I need to do this, then I will. But I, at this time, don't have plans to, because I feel like I put my characters through enough to get them to that happy ending that it would be just really hard for me to just write another book, because you need tension, you need conflict, you need, problems. And I'm just like, no, let them be happy for now. So maybe someday when I feel like they've had enough of a rest, I'll come back and like find something horrible to put them through and find their way back to each other. We'll see.
Oh, that's great. Well, it certainly is an amazing book. And if any of our book club members want to mention anything in the chat about what they'd like to see followed up on, that might be interesting too.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely want to know. Lisa, did you have another question, or were you?
Well, it just kind of goes into what you said. Arabella wants to know if you'd ever consider writing from Charlie's point of view.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, I love writers who are really able to get deep into both characters' minds. And I haven't done that yet. And for male and female lead. And I hope that someday I feel brave enough to, but I just think it's so hard to sustain that tension when you know exactly what both of them are thinking. And then I think like all the little miscommunications become so much more frustrating, because you, as the reader, know that like they're totally on the same page. Why don't they have one quick conversation? So maybe someday, but again, it's like, it has to be the right idea where I know I can pull it off, or at least think I possibly can pull this off, and then I'll do it. So right now I'm not going to write from Charlie's point of view, but maybe someday there will just be some extra little snippet I can do with that. But I don't want to ruin him, you know, I don't want to try to write from his point of view and somehow I've like messed him up, you know?
You know, it's so easy for us to say, hey, we'd like to see, you know, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And you're like, well,
I
I spent 100% of my emotional energy in these characters. Like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I
is-
mean, I wrote like an extra little epilogue for Beach Read earlier this year. And even that, I was shocked. My editor was like, do you want to write an extra epilogue? And I was like, I probably can't, but I guess I'll just sit down and try. And then as soon as I sent her the email, I just like had the idea and was like, okay, it's been a couple of years. I'm ready to revisit these characters. So that could happen. There's some, you know, to the effect of a Charlie point of view. Maybe someday I'll just be like, this is what I want to write about from Charlie's point of view. We'll see.
well, we hope you'll have many more years of novel writing to make that decision. Would you mind sharing with our members tonight, Emily, what you're working on now, what we might see in the future?
Yeah, I am working on something that should be coming out next summer. And I'm like very, very, very deep into it, kind of in the, not quite the final phases, but, you know, close enough that I can almost taste it. So I can't talk about that super openly, except to say that it's another rom-com that'll be out next summer. And I also have been trying to direct people to sign up for my newsletter if they do want to be the first people to hear about news, because that's how I'm trying to do it. It's like the newsletter gets stuff first. So that's linked on my website, which is emilyhenrybooks.com, as well as my Instagram, which is at Emily Henry Writes. If you click link in bio and click read my grocery list is the newsletter. So yeah, so there will be more soon, but that's all I can really say about it so far.
Oh, hey, that's pretty good. You never know. Sometimes we get a little exclusive tidbit of information. You never know. We also would like to ask you to share where, if someone wants to get a signed copy of your book or a book plate, where they can go to do that.
Ooh, okay. I need to get more signed copies to my local indie. Right now, I don't think they have any. You could call and ask. It's Joseph Beth in Cincinnati. They might still have some. So that'd be worth asking. And I did just send a bunch of book plates to the Novel Neighbor, which I'm trying to remember where they're based. It might be, is it DC? Let's see. Where is it? Novel Neighbor. If anybody in the chat knows where the Novel Neighbor is, they should still have signed copies. Oh, it's in Missouri, in St. Louis.
Bookstore expert. Yeah. Well, that's great to know, because we love our autographed books. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I know. I need to get over and sign some more hard copies, but I signed like thousands when I did the release. So then I was just like, I need a break.
I can totally understand that. And I cannot believe it, but our hour is almost over already. It just seemed to fly by.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you one final question, because along with anything else you would like to share, our readers are always curious about what our authors are reading. What's on your nightstand?
Yeah, so I just finished this, Miss Aldridge Regrets, and it's sort of this Agatha Christie-esque. Have you read it?
No,
yes.
But it's like on my TBR.
Yeah, beautiful cover. I believe we have the same editor, because this came in the mail from my editor, and I love every book that she works on. And this was so good. It really is like that Agatha Christie itch. Just really fantastic. That's what I just finished. And then I started My Summer Darlings by May Cobb. I really loved her last book, The Hunting Wives, which is this like pulpy, soapy kind of thriller. And I'm not super far into this, but that's kind of what it is. And then I'm reading a YA fantasy with a love story in it called Together We Burn by Isabel Ibanez. And that's about kind of, there's like, it's, a fantasy with like dragons, and it's like inspired by Spain, and it's just really, really beautiful and fun. So that's what I'm reading, those two currently.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It's always so
interesting.
Interesting to see what other people are reading.
Yeah, it's the best.
Well, we are so excited, Emily, that you are here with us tonight. I'm looking forward to going back to the chat and reading through some of the comments that we didn't. Sometimes they fly by too fast, for us to see.
Yeah.
but going back and seeing them. But we so appreciate you spending your Monday evening with us. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our readers that we didn't cover?
I mean, just wanted to thank all of you two for hosting me and everybody at home for watching. I mean, this is just, it's so fun that I can do these virtual events and talk to so many people who I wouldn't get to meet otherwise. And I just really appreciate everyone tuning in.
We thank you so much for joining us. And there is nothing but hearts, so much love. Everyone is like, thank you so much. Great discussion. We love this book. You're the best, Emily. We can't wait till your next book. Love the book. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Amber says, thank you, Emily. I have devoured all of your books since I read Book Lovers and will read everything you write or touch.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'll try to earn that honor. Thank you.
So thank you. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun.
She was awesome.
I know. She was awesome. I want to stay on for another hour.
I know. It went by way too fast.
It did. And we really didn't ask her much about her writing style. Well, some of it came up, but I mean, there was just so much that.
There's so much to cover.
I know.
Witty banter. And she was just lovely. It's always so nice when you become a fan of someone's work. And when you meet them off camera, she was lovely. On camera, she was lovely. And I'm just a bigger fan than I was before, you know?
I know, me too. And especially like I read People We Meet on Vacation and it was great. Although I did the audiobook, which for me is a little bit different, I'm not as, audio booky. But it was, the banter really came alive in the audiobook, but it was kind of a different, it was pretty cool then too. But the banter in this book was just so amazing. Like I can't imagine, especially during the pandemic,
right,
sitting down and, having that kind of rapport develop in the book with the characters. It's just so cool.
We kind of switched roles this time. Usually I'm doing audio and you're reading. And I read this one physically and you did the audio, which I think is so cool that we kind of switched it around and we still appreciate it just as much as, just like normal.
I know, absolutely. Oh, I wanted to mention something too, by the way. She talked about, we had a question about the author references in the books, and I just wanted to point out for anybody who has the book, in case you didn't see it, there's a really cool little list in the back.
Yeah.
That's called Nora and Libby's Ultimate Reading List. And it's just really neat. There's some kind of some big hits in here. Yinka, Where's Your Husband is one of them.
Ron loved that book and recommended it.
Oh, I know. I think of Ron.
I started one that I read. I decided I want audiobook for it because of the accents, and I haven't been able to find it on audio. So it's like I'm a third into it. I'm just like paused because I'm like, this is gonna be so.
I hadn't thought about that. That would be a good argument for, the audiobook. One on this list I've read is called The Editor by Stephen Rowley, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but it was super good. If you like literary agenty books, that's one for you. But I just want to make sure everybody saw that because it was a really cool surprise at the end.
Yeah, that was great. And thank you guys that are still hanging out with us for our little mini after show. And thank you for all your comments and questions. You guys are amazing with the comments and the questions tonight. There were so many good questions and comments, and the Bigfoot titles. There were some I didn't get to. I didn't want it to be that the whole time, but there were some more great ones that came through after I announced them, and I went, "Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome!" So
All I can say is I hope that Google does not associate my name with that topic.
I went rogue, but I don't care.
You did go rogue. That was not part of the plan.
Lord.
I did want to say though, before we go off, the night is about our next. She's still laughing. Okay, you let me know when you're ready.
I'm good. You go ahead. Don't pay me any attention.
Well, I wanted to just remind everybody about our next book discussion. It's going to be August 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern with Sally Hepworth discussing The Younger Wife. I'm really excited about that one too.
I'm excited.
We just had a great
too.
lineup this year.
That'll be our first international book club discussion because she will be in Australia and we will be here. And it will be 9 a.m. I think her time when the next day. So we'll be on Tuesday. She'll be on Wednesday. We'll be having cocktails. She'll be drinking coffee. It'll be fun.
You are too funny, Lisa. Was there anything else you wanted to share?
I do want to share a comment from Lisa in the chat. She says, not as audio booky is going to be on repeat for some of my book club friends, Brenda.
Sorry.
That made me giggle too when you said it. So, Joe Denna says she petitions Chad Michael Murray for Charlie, LOL. See, I knew she meant that was just the CMM because Joe Denna is like my sister from another mister. I know that's what she likes.
And we didn't ask that question.
Yeah, we didn't even think about the movie part. And I wondered that who would play Charlie because he was so just like mean and gruff. Like my initial thought of him is he was just like older and probably had like a gut, like a muffin top and like he just seemed like a mean guy. And then as you started to get to know him more, and then he was like, they said he was kind of nice looking, and I'm thinking, no, he's not. He's like old and fat and gross. But
I think we read more into that, but I did the same thing. But I think we read into it of what we knew, which was, I'm sure, intentional on her part.
Yeah.
To make him seem, more surly. And then we find out more of the backstory and we know why he's the way he is on that day.
Yeah.
But that's just so funny. She just has an amazing wit. I mean,
she's
just
great.
Awesome.
So we have a couple of comments that just came through and they were like, they didn't know what CMM was. So our moderator, Joe Denna, has a healthy fandom obsession with the actor Chad Michael Murray, who was from One Tree Hill, but he also starred in the Beach House movie based on one of our founders of Friends in Fiction, Mary Alice Monroe's Beach House series. So that's who Chad Michael Murray is. But because I know her, she doesn't even have to say the name. She can just put CMM, and I know that's what she means, because if there's any male in any film, she's going to want it to be him. So that's that.
Yes, she's probably going, thank you, Lisa, for announcing that to everyone.
Now everyone knows. Start sending Joe Denna, Chad Michael. No, don't. Okay, I'm done. It's time for me to, I don't know, eat dinner. Maybe I'm Looney Tunes today.
I think that might be my issue as well, but I did want to mention that we have some announcements coming up.
Ooh, we do.
That our book club members might be interested in.
Keep your eyes on the page. We have some exciting things happening.
And that's all we'll say.
That's all we can say. So we hope you guys all have a wonderful night. Happy reading. Thank you for joining us. for our discussion of book lovers. We are book lovers. We love this book, and Emily Henry was a dream.
What she said. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
TV and
That was
J out.
awesome.